everybody. Happy Sunday. We had a little storm just come through here, so you might still hear a little thunder. It got rained really hard, and then we actually had some hail. Just what I love. I love hail. So I was out there watching to see if there was any broken siding or anything like that. So it got a little noisy here for a little bit. So hopefully everyone's doing okay and you're not getting blown away by the storm. I'm in Iowa City, Iowa. So for those of you who are from a ways from here, so it is kind of heading to the east and then slightly south, because it was a little north and then it kind of drifted down. So anyway, it was a little noisy and few hailstones, but don't think it was anything too bad. I'm looking to see who's coming in. Hi, everybody. I can't see the names on StreamYard sometimes. So sirens here now. Yeah, our electricity never went off or anything. It was just, it rained pretty hard and the wind blew a little bit. Here in Johnson County, they blow the sirens if the wind's going to blow 2 miles an hour. So after the tornado we had in 2008, they blow the sirens for, every time the wind's going to blow just a little bit. So anyway, how is everybody? I am ready to do another. Are you ready to do another cutie? Actually, these are so much fun to do, and I just enjoy sitting down to work on them. Oh, it's sunny in Alabama. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're not having any. You've had your share of storms down that direction too. So in Tennessee, I know that you've had, I see somebody from Tennessee, that you've had your share of storms down that direction also. So yeah, it got kind of dark here. So, but it sure cooled off. It's only 60 degrees now, and it was like 85. So it cooled off quite a lot in a few minutes. So I have a bird's nest right up above my front door, and the mama bird was up sitting on top of her baby to keep her baby safe. So I noticed that. I didn't notice the bird nest until about a week or so ago. So there's a baby bird in it, so I'm not going to take it down until everybody's moved out. So, but she was sitting there taking care of her baby. I just stuck my head out. Part of my railing was on the ground, so I put it back up, and the baby bird and mama were in the nest. So yeah, so the storm, yeah, those of you to the east may get storms, just so you know. I think it's kind of, like I said, it was kind of drifting from the north, kind of southeast. So it depends on where you're living, whether you're going to get the worst of it or not. I think that's about it. They said we might have some rain yet, but so it was a little noisy for a little bit here. They had to blow the sirens a couple times and everything. So, but it's quiet now, which is good. All right. So I also wanted to let you know, I just posted this. This will be the class for the last week, or the third week in May, that we're going to do a software class. So I made a little pincushion that says Eat, Sleep, Sew. And we're going to use the carousel tool with the scatter on it, and then the lettering tool. Okay. And then we're also going to make something out of something we've already made. So this was actually made out of one of our little mini quilts that we've put on the little rack thing. So I like to make stuff out of things I already have. And so this, believe it or not, this was something I had already made. So I thought it was really cool. So anyway, this will be in a couple of weeks, the 21st, I think, of May. So I just put it up on Facebook. Okay. So I'm going to switch the camera over. Yeah, we had a little bit of, we had some storms last night too. It just kind of, I don't think it really even rained, because I heard the thunder last night around maybe 10:30 maybe, and it thundered, but it didn't really rain. very much because everything looked really dry. I put some grass seed out. I was hoping that it would rain on it today to, put rain on it. I went out and watered, and then I realized, oh, I think it might rain actually today, and it did. So, yep. So Washington is hopefully no power here watching on your phone. Who's that? Oh, Mary Ann, you don't have any power over there? I'm on the other side of town. So that's too bad you don't have any power. So Mary Ann lives on the other side of Iowa City. I'm in Coralville, but I have a different electric company than most of the people in Iowa City do. I'm on Lynn County REC. Cool. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the camera down over here, and we're going to talk about the fabric. Okay. And I've done a little pre-sewing so it won't take, so long to get this all sewn together. This is another one. This is the June table topper, and this is the one with the watermelons. So I'm going to tell you some stuff about cutting it out. This one worked out real well, but I did make the rind, this different, and I'll tell you what I did to change it. But this is what we're going to be making. And then this is going to be another one of those ones that's called a disappearing 9 patch in the center. Okay, so there's 16 little blocks in the center of this one again. Isn't it cute? I just really like this one too. This one does take a little longer because there's quite a lot involved with it, because there's quite a bit of embroidery on it, and quite a lot of the decoration. And I did the decorations differently than they called for it. So I'll talk to you about that in a second. Okay. So the June tabletop. All right. So let me go ahead and switch the camera and see here, and the microphone. Okay. Yeah, it stops thundering here, so it's not so loud. It was quite loud here earlier. Let me get the banner off. Okay, so let's talk first about the fabric. So there's actually quite a bit of fabric in this one. And you need quite a few reds, because they did it in reds because of the watermelons, I think. So I started out, this is the June one, it's on page 13, that the fabrics, there's 4 fabrics that are going to be cut up for the center blocks, the appliques, and the border. So I picked 4 different fabrics. So I had 4 red fabrics here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and these were the 4 red fabrics that I chose for that. And you're going to cut these up in 2.5-inch squares. So you need 8 2.5-inch squares of each one. And then you need, of each of these, and the of each one of these, you also need the border blocks. So the border blocks, second here, the cat is sitting on everything here. You need 9 1/4 by 2.5-inch rectangles. So I just already have sewn these together just so that I didn't take so long. So you need 2 of each of the colors. So you'll have 8 of those rectangles too for the borders. And we've done these borders before, so you can see how they go together. So I have 2 of each one of those also. And then I also made the watermelon appliques out of those. And I cut my appliques at 6 by 8. And I made 1 of each of the fabrics. So here's my watermelon. So here's one, the little leafy looking design. And then here's the one with the lines in it. And then, oops, second here, let me get back to my comments. There we go. And the one with the polka dots. Okay, so I made 1 of those out of each one of those as well. So you do need quite a little bit of that fabric. And then you need some green. Now what they did for each one of the disappearing 9 patch blocks, we're going to make a 9 patch. And the center block is going to be green. And you can see in my center section here, pull this back up here so you can see it. You can see that there's this little tiny square of green in there. Okay, so what they do is they make most of the blocks out of the red, and then they put one square of the green, and then I put the green on the corners. Okay, so I had that, and I think it said you needed, of the green, I think you needed, yeah, 8 2.5-inch blocks, and then 4 strips. And the strips are for, let's see here, I got those in my bag here. There's 4 strips. Now, the way they did the watermelon rinds was with a raw edge technique, and I personally don't like the raw edge technique, so I actually made my green watermelon rinds with ruching. And so it says in the instructions to cut your strips for the watermelon rinds 3/4 inches by 18. I actually cut mine, I believe 22. Let me look and see. I think I wrote it on a different page here. My watermelon rinds. Let's see. I know I did them at least 18, if not 22 inches. I think what I did is I had a piece of yardage, and I wanted these to be 1.5 inches wide. So I made them into bias tape, which after it's folded is 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so these strips were like half of the width of the fabric and 1.5 inches wide. Okay, so that's what I made these out of, instead of what they call for here, because the way they did it here is they kind of did like a raw edge technique, and they left them raw on the edges, and then they were all ravelly, and I was playing around with it. I didn't like it, so I made the ruching instead. So we'll do that next week so that you can see how I made this ruching. But I cut it half of the width of the fabric and then 1.5 inches wide, so that I could make bias tape out of them. Okay, so that was out of the green. And then I made my squares out of the green, and I made the little squares that went, inside the centers of my 9 patches in the green. Okay, and then I did some black polka dots. So the black polka dots are going to be my inner borders here. Those are 1.5 by 11 and 1.5 by 13-inch strips here. And I also cut my binding out of that. Okay, so that's what my binding is. And then let's see, I'm pretty sure I had the binding, yep, out of the other ones too. Make sure I did the second one with the same binding. I think I did. I'm trying to use up some of my fabric, so I do have to go buy a little bit of fabric sometimes. And then the white, we have to cut our square and cut it in quarters to make these triangles again, just like we did. And this was just a fat quarter that I cut in 14-inch square. And I also put no-show mesh on the back. I'm sorry, shape flex on the back. Because again, we're going to be embroidering on these, and we want shape flex on the back of this white piece. So this is one of my quarters here of my white fabric, and I have my shape flex that I ironed on in the square, and then I cut it into the 4 pieces. Okay, so I like you need to have that shape flex on there to give you more body when you're doing the embroidery on these corners, because there's actually quite a little bit of embroidery on these. It's mostly just a satin stitch. Yeah, I love the ruching. It's not my favorite thing to do, but it sure turns out cute. So I'll show you how I do it. I don't do it by hand. I actually use the sewing machine to make the ruching. So I'll show you next week how to do it. Okay. All right. So we've got our white triangles, our borders. Let's see. And I think that's it. Oh, and then my backing, I ended up making it a different, I didn't have enough of this little tiny polka dot, so I made it a bigger black and white polka dot. So I had to go get another yard of that. So sometimes I have to go buy something for the backing or the binding, because I don't always have enough to make 2 of the same. So I had to buy a little bit of backing for this one. So, all right. So we have all of our pieces. And so what you start out with on this is a 9-patch. So we've done a couple of these, actually. This might be the third one that we've done. And it's really super simple, but this one does have one specific instruction that says to put the green block in the center of all of these. Okay. So I just kind of came up with my reds here. I just came up with a pattern, and it doesn't matter. You can make it any way you want. So this pattern's probably not going to turn out the same as my first one. So we'll see how it turns out. So we're going to start out with a 9-patch. So I'm going to get my 3 rows of 3. Okay, so I just decided this is the way I wanted it. Okay, and then I've got my green one for the center again. Okay, and I've got, so there's going to be 2 of each one of your squares, your red squares in here, like that. So I just kind of found a way I liked them, and I laid them out. Okay, so there's my little squares. These are the 2.5-inch squares. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to sew these together. And I just have some gray Pima cotton thread in my needle. I have a number 11 needle in, and then I've got it in the bobbin as well. Okay, so we're just going to sew these together. I just came up with a plan. All right. And when I did these, I actually laid out there's going to be 4 9-patches you're going to make. And I actually already trimmed my other ones so that I didn't have to, do all the trimming while you were waiting on me. So I trimmed the ones that I had already done. So this is the other 3. And then I'll show you, we're going to trim it at the end once we get it done. All right, so we're going to sew these together. With our 1/4-inch seam, I'm using my J-foot with my Q02 piecing stitch on my luminaire. Okay, and we're just going to sew our 1/4-inch seams here. Yeah, I really like the ruching too. I just don't like making ruching very well because it takes a little while. So then we're going to sew this one here. The cat got them all mixed up, so I had to go make sure that I had them all in the same order. So I just kind of laid them all in the same order and just made piles and then just picked them up and started sewing. All right, so there's the first row. Okay, so we'll lay this one up here, and here's our second row. And you're going to do this 4 times to make these blocks. And we'll put the green one in the center here. Got quite warm in my sewing room this afternoon. I'm going to have to start running the air conditioner in here. I have a portable one that I run in my sewing room when it gets warm, because this room is always 5 to 7 degrees warmer than the rest of the house. So it's like 80 degrees in here right now. So, all right, so then we're going to do this. This is the second row. So these blocks are pretty easy. I've so far, all the blocks have been very easy. There was one, I think it's the one we're going to do next month, that the block is just a little bit harder. So there's our second row. Okay, so I'm just going to lay those over here. So here's our second row, and then here's our third row. And sew these 3 together. All right, let's see here. I like to drop my needle before I start sewing, because then my machine moves forward well, and I always drop the needle into my fabric. So if you have trouble with your machine not feeding forward properly, make sure you're dropping and not just starting. Don't just, step on the gas and go. Drop your needle first, and your machine will go forward with no problem. Cool. Hi, Mitzi. All right, so here's our third row. Okay, so now this one I'm going to lay right here. Okay, so this is the way I've always done these rows. So like if it's an odd row, I turn the seams so that they can match up nicely. I turn the seams to the left. So I'm just going to finger press them down real quick, and then I'll go press them a little bit with the iron. So these are going to go to the left, so that one goes that way. And then these seams, I'm pressing to the right. So the even numbered ones I press to the right. And that's just the way I've always done it. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's just what I've always done. So I can keep track of which directions my seams are going. Okay. And then this one's an odd one too. So I'm going to go to this side. So this one's going to the left. All right. So if you give me just a second, I'm going to hop up and press these out just a little bit so that they're nicely pressed down. Sounds like it's still thundering a little bit. I don't think it's quite done yet. Do you drop the needle in the fabric? Yes, I do. I do every time. So here's my first row with my seams pressed to the left. Here's my second row with my seams pressed to the right, and my third row with my seams pressed to the left again. So now we're going to sew our rows together. So I'm going to flip this up, and we're going to sew along this seam here. But I like to nest my little seams together nicely. And then I'm going to put a couple pins in here to hold everything together for me. I'm going to do this one. It's really hard the next step to know what to do with the seams. Sometimes I press them open. These I just press them to the side because no matter what I do, I will never have them the right way when you start turning these to put these together in the next piece. So, all right, so let's sew these together. Hopefully you can see here. Again, I'm going to drop my needle. And this is a very good sewing practice. You know, you notice that I don't have that eating problem when you sometimes, when you start, if you start with your needle up and your needle goes down and doesn't hit any fabric, then it often will make a little knot and it won't go forward. So if you start with your needle in the edge of the fabric with your needle down, you won't have that problem. Okay, so so here's the first and second row, and then this is my third row. Okay, so we're going to lay this like this, make sure we get it in there right. Trying to make sure I have all of my my instructions highlighted over here, so if there's anything particular I needed to tell you. So we've done a couple of these now before, so it makes it easier since we've done these before. But this one's this one's kind of fun because you can kind of make it, and no two are ever going to look alike because it depends on how you turn the blocks, you know, when you go to do these. All right, so then we're going to sew this together. And also make sure your thread is under your foot. Okay, got to get right up to the fabric there. There we go. Very slowly. Make sure everything's lined up over here. And there is my 1/4 inch seam using my piecing stitch on my machine. Carol, can you tell me which quilting designs you're talking about? I'm sorry, I don't understand what your question is. Are you asking about the designs that I took the lines out of? Carol Hirschberger, can you explain that to me, please? Because I've been trying to get in touch with you, but you don't answer. So please tell me what you're asking about so that I make sure I send you the right things. Okay. I didn't do anything special for that. I made the designs, the quilting designs in my machine. So I did not make them. I don't have quilting designs. I made them in the machine. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn these. Okay. And I'm going to lay the seams flat and I'm going to go press this open. Okay. So once I do that, while I'm over there, I'm going to take my ruler. So these are 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches. Okay. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to cut my block in half both directions. And that's how it's called a disappearing 9 patch. So see how my little green squares are in the center here. Okay. Okay, I don't have those designs, Carol. I made them in the machine. Do you just, you can take I just took the quilting, I just took the placement lines off in order to get the quilting around it, but I made those in the machine. I made those designs with, do you have a Luminaire or a Dream Machine or a Destiny? Because I made them in Design Center IQ Designer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this, and then while I'm over there, I'm going to trim it at 3.5 inches from the edge, straight down the centers. So both ways, this way, and that's how we get our disappearing 9 patch. Okay, so I'll be right back. All right, so I'm going to cut these at 3.25 down each side. Okay, so this was like this. Okay, so these were all like this. And what I did is I just cut it in half. Okay, so here is my square, my 9 patch, and no, I can, I'll, Carol, is there a way you could email me? I can personal message you my email so I could explain how I did them. I don't have the designs though, because they were just in my machine and I didn't keep them. The designs for that pillow, I didn't keep them. They were just in my machine. So, all right. So I went ahead and cut this in half both ways. Okay. And then here are 4 blocks. So with this, what was the, oh, Shapeflex. Shapeflex is a Pellon product. It's SF101. Okay, so that is what I put on the back of my corners because that's where we're going to be embroidering to give us more body in our fabric. So here I did not do that. I didn't do that on any of the other fabric, just on those corners. Okay. All right, so here are my 4 blocks out of this 9 patch. And so I have done the same thing to all my other ones. So I just cut them and made these little squares. So they end up being about, I think they're around 3.5, 3.25 inches, 3.25 inches. Okay. So now what we have to do is we have to lay these out in 4 rows of 4 so that we can, make the center of this. So I'm going to show you the center here. Let me just lay these up here. And so there's no real way of doing this other than just laying them out. Okay. So what I did is I just started laying them out and hoped that they worked out okay. So let's just do the same thing. So we'll just turn them. Okay. So we'll lay 4 out like this, and let's see, we'll just kind of, we don't want them, we don't want the greens together. We want to kind of turn them so that they have different colors together. So we'll just start laying them out. Let's see, let's try this. There we go. And then let's see, maybe this one like that, or like this maybe. Okay, so there's one, and let's see, try this one like that. All right, so there's the first row. So hopefully they'll turn out okay. I remember the last time I did one of these, I had to actually, pull it apart a little bit because I didn't like what I did. So this looks pretty good like that. And then let's see. And there's really no rhyme or reason to this. You just have to kind of figure out how they look good. And I try not to put all the same colors together, and that's kind of hard sometimes not to do that. So I'm gonna go, whoops. Let's see, here's 1, 2, like this. Let's try like that. And then let's see. Well, this one has a lot of polka dots, so maybe we can do this one. Let's try this one like that. Will that be okay? And you are going to have some colors together because, you know, there was only 4 colors in it, so you may have some colors in it. Okay. And then I can go this way. Let's see. This is the 3rd row. Let's go maybe like that. I'm going to lay it up a little further, so just a second here. So I have room to put the last row down here. Okay, let's see. Maybe like that. And like that. Okay, so it's gonna be as random as you can get it without having a ton of the same color fabric all together. So that's what I'm trying to do anyway. So let's see. Let's go this way. And maybe like that. And let's see here. Looks like I got something on my fabric. I don't know what it was. Something off my rotary cutter maybe. There we go. Maybe that one looks pretty good. And then let's see. Hopefully this will work out here. So go this way. How about like that? Okay. So that looks pretty good. I don't have like a ton of the same fabric all in the same place. So what I usually do then when I have them kind of laid out the way I want them, I just pull them up and leave them laying in the rows. So like here's the first one in the 4th row. And then I'm just going to lay them on top of each other like this very carefully so I can kind of keep them in order. Okay. Like this. Okay, that's the 3rd row. And then this is the 1st row. So let me get this one down here. There's those. And whoops, I must have lost one. Don't remember how I had that one. Maybe like this. Hopefully it was like this. No, I don't think so. This was the 2nd row. Let me see. Must have been like this. I think like that. Okay. It fell on the off my machine. So, okay. So let's see if we can get these sewn together. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to sew our little squares together. And it's going to look totally different than it did when we were just making a 9 patch. So now we're going to make another. This is going to be a 16 patch. There's actually 16 of these little blocks, and we're going to do the same thing. Going to use our piecing stitch and use our 1/4 inch seam. And we're just going to continue to put these together. Like this. That. And then across this way. All right, so this will be the 1st row. So is this making sense to everybody? It's pretty easy. It looks kind of scary with all these fabrics and all these squares and everything, but once you get going, it goes together pretty easily. All right, so this is the 1st row. And then, so I'll lay this one up here. And then we're going to do the 2nd row. So here's the 2nd row. Thought about doing some of these in advance, but sometimes it's hard to lay it out like partially and not have all of it cut. So I thought, well, I better probably not do that. So I decided you'll have to sit here and watch me sew all these little blocks together. These little 3 1/4 inch blocks. Okay, so here's the 2nd row. Bring my camera over just a little bit more so I can keep from sticking my hand in front of it. Okay, so there's this one. Okay. Go down this way. And then this way. Okay, let's see if we can get these lined up here. I always end up with a couple of seams often that are just a little bit, well, actually I got these lined up so that they will work okay, believe it or not. Let's see if we can get it lined up on the side. All right. So this is like this. I had never made a like a disappearing 9-patch before I made these table toppers. I don't know why. I mean, I just never have. And that looks good. Okay, so there's the second row, and then here's the third one. So here's the first and the second block. So get this. Sounds like there's still a little bit of thunder in the air outside. I can hear it. It did rain pretty hard here. It wasn't terrible. The wind blew some, but it sounded a little scary. I don't like hail, so it hits my carport outside, and it sounds horrible. But I don't think it hailed that much. All right, so there's the first two. Let's get this one. So hopefully we did okay with getting the fabrics fairly mixed up. It's very hard to make it look random, you know. Oh, the storms in Illinois now, Donna. Yeah, it carried on quite a little while. So, oh, and guess what, guys? Don't forget you need to. I forgot to get the prize. I'll have to run and get the prize here in a second. Okay. Don't forget that at the end of we'll do our drawing at the end of class, and then somebody will get to have a sample. And I forgot to pull it out of the bag tonight, so I'll go over and get it here in a minute and show you what it's going to be. Sorry about that. All right, so there is the third row. Okay, so see, I got a little off there, but you know what? We can fix that. It'll be fine. Okay, and then let's do the fourth row. Push these up. Sometimes I'm a little off when I cut them, so this looks pretty good. Ooh, it is warm in here though. The cat's enjoying it. She's resting. She does not like storms though. She was pretty. Yeah, I think it rained quite a bit here. I have no idea how much, but it rained quite a bit, I bet. Because it rained hard for not too long though, maybe 10 minutes. It didn't rain that bad. So, okay, so let's do this one. Okay. And the fourth one, like this. Okay. So there's our 4 rows. Now I need to go press these. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to, on the odd rows, I'm going to press the seams to the left. And on the even rows, I'm going to press them to the right so that I can nest these together. Okay, so give me a second here. Here's the first row, the second row, the third row, and the fourth row. I'm going to try to make sure I keep them in the same order. All right, so I'll be right back. Okay, It's easier for me to iron with these bigger things over on my work table. Okay, so here is the first row, and here is the second row. So we're gonna sew those together to make our square, our center. And I'm gonna lay this over like this. Make sure I don't mess up anything. So I'm gonna make sure I lay my rows here in order. This is usually when I mess up. I mess up and I like turn a row over or something. So I have to be very deliberate here. So I'm going to be very careful not to do that. All right, let's see here. And Cindy, were you asking me, or were you asking somebody else if the internet was working? Or were you asking Jan, the other Jan? Yeah, everything's been okay here. I was surprised because I wasn't sure, if it was going to be okay, with the storm coming through. I thought we may have to delay a little bit, but okay. So this is the first row and this is the second row. So I always have to be careful that I don't mess it up. So you guys have to help me. The other Jan, okay? All right, so you have to help me to make sure. In fact, let's do this. Let's put a pin in this one to know this is the top left, okay? Then I can remember. All right. So I have to be kind of deliberate when I do this because I always mess it up. All right. This is like the hardest thing for me to do, is to make it look random. So, it's always been hard for me to make things look random. All right. So there's the first two rows. Oh, your power's back on? Oh, good. Yeah, Marianne, I'm on Lynn County REC out here, so I so rarely have any internet or any power problems. It's weird because I often don't lose power when everybody in town does. Okay, so here's the first two rows, and then we're going to do the third row. So let me get that one. We're going to lay it like this and flip it up. Okay. See if we got our seams going the right way. I think we did okay. All right. So I'm having a little, whoops, where'd my seam go here? Which way is it going? Here we go. There's a lot of seams on these, so you kind of have to watch where you're pinning. Make sure you're pinning the right seam open. There's just a lot of them. Okay. So we got that. Let's see here. I think there's one more that I need to fix here yet. I got kind of a messy one here yet, so. Okay, whoopsie. There we go. All right, let's see how we do here. And then I'm going to try to keep this as close as I can here. These pins are, so Mary, this is, if you haven't seen a live before, I do sew over these pins only. I would not recommend this with any other pin. These are magic pins. They are extra fine patchwork magic pins. They're very, very, very soft. I never sew over any other pin, and I don't sew over them very fast. And I have them on our website, shieldsewingcenter.com. So these do work, and they're very nice. They're very nice pins. They're very, very sharp. In fact, they're so sharp, I'm always poking myself with them. And, but they're called magic pins, and they're extra fine patchwork pins. And then I've got these new flat-headed ones and the regular ones. These are the regular ones here. And then there's flat-headed ones. I have both kind now, and I like them both. I just couldn't get any of the regular ones. The flatheads have been in stock lately, so I've been using those to see if I liked them. So I'm going to very slowly, but I don't go over them very fast, as you can see. But if I take those out, I am not a very good piecer, and I can guarantee you that my seams will scoot. Almost certainly. All right, so we're going to go over these. All right, so we got the third row done. We're doing pretty good. This is always the part that you never know how it's going to turn out until you're all done, you know. You think you all have it all fine, and then you get it together and you think, oh gosh, look at all that red and that the same polka dot in the same place. All right, so this is the next one. See, I've got a little bit of polka dot here, but you know what? It's okay. And then here's the fourth row. So this one's going to go down here. Actually, that looks pretty good though. All right, so we're going to do this. But you always seem to get, you know, too much of one thing in the same place. You always think, oh, it's going to be perfectly fine, and then, you know, put it together. And so, yes, they do make the fork pins. I wish I should buy some of those, because then you can use one pin on each side of the seam instead of having to use two. So yes, Magic Pin has this, but they're not extra fine. They're fine. So they are a little thicker, and I don't know that I'd drive over those, because they're a little hard. They're a little stiffer pin. But they do have fork pins now. All right, let's see here. See what other places we need to check to see if we got kind of seams that are going to match up and stuff here. This one had quite a few little seams that are going to match up, so I'll put an extra pin or two in here. Let's see. Well, I think we're okay down here. All right, so this is our last row. Now these, I may actually open the seams just to reduce the bulk for the quilting. So I may open these seams. I know technically you're not supposed to. But I often do when because I know I'm going to be quilting this in my embroidery machine, and I just like to reduce the seam bulk, because there's quite a lot of seams in this. All right. Yeah, my machine just got back from the shop. That's why I wanted to take it in when I had that break last week, because my machine needed to be cleaned. It's so dirty. I was constantly. I never had a bobbin sensor that worked. Okay, so here's our 4. Actually, looks pretty good. I didn't do too bad. See, I got polka dots right here. But you know what? It's okay. It turned out fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over, and I think I'm going to press these seams open just to give me a little less bulk, because there's an awful lot of other seams in there. So I think I'll open those up. And then the next step is this square in the center needs to measure 11 by 11. So what I did to make it exactly 11 by 11, and you will cut off a little bit on the outside edges, and it's okay. I use the center seams, and I put my 5.5 inch. Oh, nothing's wrong with the polka dots. I just have quite a few of them in the same place, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. So I'm going to go open these up, and then I'll explain a little bit more about the cutting, because we do need to square this up to 11 by 11. Okay, so give me just a second to press these open. Sometimes pressing open just makes things a little flatter. This particular block has a lot of seams, although it does take a little longer to do it. Trying to get it flat. All right, I got one. See if I can get a second one here. iron. Okay. Got one more to do. I think this is the hardest thing about quilting is all the ironing. But if you don't iron, it just doesn't turn out right. My grandmother always told me you gotta iron when you're making clothes too. You don't press things, they just don't turn out beautiful. Okay, just a second. I'm getting it. I've got so many seams here. Just a minute. I'm having a little trouble getting this one. All right. So then what I'm going to do, so what do you think? There's my center. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler, and I'll have to do this over at my cutting table too, but I'm going to take my ruler, and this is the center seam here, okay, the seam, and then this seam are the center seams of this block. And what I'm going to do to make sure I've got it the right size is I'm going to take my 5.5 inch mark on my ruler, and I'm going to lay it on the center seams each way, and I'm going to trim this down so that it's 5.5 inches from the center seam on both sides, all four sides, and then it'll be 11 inches. So it's 5.5. So what I'm doing is laying my 5.5 inch mark, and I'm going to trim off, and you're probably going to end up trimming, as you can see, there's about 1/4 inch or so that I'm going to trim off, because this ended up being about, it needs to be 11, make sure I got the right measure. Yeah, 11 by 11, and it's about 11.5 by 11.5. So you're basically going to trim off about 1/4 inch off of each side. Okay, so I'll go do that, but I'm using my center seams of my blocks to help me make sure that it's even on both sides. All right. All right, so I'm laying my 5.5 inch mark on the first side here. And then I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. I like to do that, like the opposite side, so I don't forget where I'm at. Otherwise I forget. Okay, so that is now 11 inches, and now I'm going to do the other two sides. So you will have, you know, slightly smaller edges, and that's the way these, that's fine. Okay. I'm going to flip it over and do the other side. All right, and I think I got it. It is 11 by 11. Okay, so here is my center. So I just trimmed it off on each side, okay, like that. That looks pretty good. I kind of like it, and it's totally different than the other one, because as I'm looking at the other one, it's like totally different. Okay, so that was instructions. This is on page 14 in the book. So what we just did was instruction number 11. And so I used my center seams to help me square it, and I wrote those in. So now we're going to put on the corners. Okay, so we got to put our, we got to put our borders on first. So we got to put our black borders on. So I'm going to find the two shorter ones, which are 11 inches, and we're going to put those on first. And we're going to put those on opposite sides. So I'll put them on over here. Just pin them both on here. I actually been watching some TV today. It's unusual. I don't watch much TV, and I've been watching Bridgerton on Netflix. It's very good. I've seen it, but it's been a long time. So, all right, so we'll do this one. So I've been enjoying that. And then we had a little thunderstorm. Sounds like there's still a little bit of thunder rolling out there, though. I wonder if there's going to be another batch come through. I hadn't really heard the full weathercast. I didn't hear it last night. All right, so I'm going to get this one. So we're going to do the two opposite sides and put our black little polka dot borders on here. Still got our 1/4 inch seam. And on the borders, I do like to tie off also, just because sometimes I have trouble getting things to match up if I don't tie them off. So I usually just tie them off with my little polka dot button up here. So I'm pressing the little polka dot button instead of the reverse button. And we're just going to do our 1/4 inch seams. Oops, second hand, let me get my book out of the way here. The cat is kind of in the way of my books and stuff. She's enjoying sitting on my cutting mat as usual, or my pressing mat as usual. I was going to press over here, but she was so comfortable, I hated to make her move. All right, so we're going to get this one. I'm going to tie off down here. Okay, then I'll turn it over and we'll do the other side. Okay, looks like my measurements were pretty good, so everything's matching up pretty well. Oh yeah, The Man Called Otto. Yeah, that sounds good. Somebody said it was good, so. It's not on Netflix though, isn't it? On like one of the other channels, one of the other paid channels, Bitsy. I really don't watch TV much. I watch a lot of YouTube instructional videos and stuff, but I don't watch much television. All right. We might get some storms. Oh, okay. All right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the pins out of here and I'm going to press these towards the seam, or I'm sorry, towards the border. So I'm going to press these out real quick and then we'll be back and we'll do the other two. And I think a lot of people ask me what design I use to quilt these, because I quilted this one with oh, it's the swirl from the Clear Blue Tiles. So it's just the plain swirl that I did for this one. Everybody's always asking me, which ones I'm using. So, well, I was thinking of it. Hopefully Judy likes that one. This one's for Judy. I'll let her choose. I always let her choose between the two she wants, because I try to use the same fabric. I do have to alter some fabrics occasionally. Oh, is there? Somebody's got thunderstorm warnings. Yeah, it was pretty. I mean, it hailed, but it wasn't like the type of hail that was like hard and consistent that was going to cause lots of damage. You just hear a stone hit every now and then. So it wasn't too bad. Okay, so let's do that side. Where's my other one go? The cat keeps laying on things. Oh, here it is. Here we go. Here's my other border. So we're doing these little black and white borders. The cat just turned around and now she's laying on my book. I'll have to show you my buddy over here. She's relaxing. It's rough being a kitty cat, She does not like storms very well. So, whoops, looks like I pulled a pin out. What did I do with it? Here it is. Make sure I get my ends even. Okay. is going to look fine. I kind of like the reds. I had, you have to kind of, like this one, I wanted it to be in the reds since it's because of the watermelons. But boy, it was kind of a, it was kind of hard to find, you know, 4 reds that actually like kind of match together. Because, you know, reds are hard to match sometimes, you know, the shades. So this one, I was surprised that I had that many just in my stash. So I'm going to tie this off again. Oops, I think I missed though. I'm going to take a stitch forward here. There we go. All right. Very slowly. There we go. Doing our 1/4 inch seam still. I really like the piecing stitch on the machine. You know, if you like to use a piecing foot, go by all means do that. I've just used the piecing stitch for so long. Then I don't have to change my foot off all the time. I have a little trouble with the piecing feet. They're so short. I like the J foot because it's longer and it glides over the bumps better. All right, so we're going to tie off our borders. Yeah, I think the center is going to look pretty nice. And it's very different, you know, like every one of yours is going to look totally different depending on your fabrics. And like even if you use the same exact fabric I did, it may look totally different than mine depending on how you sewed them together. You know, that's what's fun about these Disappearing 9 patches. They're so different. I have trouble. Yeah, they are kind of hard to match. All right, let's see here. Oh, I know what the prize is going to be. Couldn't decide what I was going to do for the prize, but I've got a couple of prizes down underneath the table. That'll be fun. Okay. You know, my seam, the piecing stitch to me, I have a little more control over it. I don't know. I feel like I do better with it. I do like it. Okay. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press these outward as well. And then we're going to be ready to put our corners on. Okay. That looks pretty good. I think I like that. What do you think? So there's our center. Okay. What is the piecing stitch? The piecing stitch is, Mary, is on the, most of the Brother and Baby Lock machines have a quilting tab, so, or a quilting area, and then there's a stitch that's called the piecing stitch. And so what it does is it actually shoots the needle over to the right slightly, so that you can run your fabric right along the edge of your foot, the right edge of your foot, and it's placed the needle correctly for a 1/4 inch seam. So then you don't have to use a piecing stitch unless you want to, or a piecing foot. You know, if you want to do that, then you put the needle in the center. I like the piecing stitch because then I feel like I have a little more control over my 1/4 inch seam. So it's Q02 on my machine. A lot of the ones with the screens like this are going to be Q02. Okay. All right. So now we're going to work on our borders, or our triangles. So the triangles were cut from the 14-inch square into 4 pieces. And I'm going to take these straight edges here and I'm going to fold them in half. Maybe if I can get it lined up. I'm just going to make my fold in the center of that. I'll put a pin there so just in case it kind of, I can't see it very well. Let's do a couple of them. Sorry, Kat, you're going to have to move. Maybe she'll give them to me and maybe she won't. They must be comfortable to lay on. Now you all understand why everything I own has orange cat hair on it. All right, so we're going to get those first 2 done. And then I'm going to fold the side of my, whoops, I threaded my machine here. Yeah, the 1/4 inch seam, I mean, most of my stuff turns out very, very close. So obviously I'm pretty close with my 1/4 inch seam, but I have been using this piecing stitch for actually a long time. So we're going to fold our one side of our center into, so we can find the center of it. Maybe. Right there. And you can kind of see where the seam is too, okay? And then we're going to line up our pins, and we're going to get this in the center, and we'll do the opposite side, and then we'll sew these on. And remember, this has got the shape flex on it. Yeah, Mary, there is I did a video on Shields Live called In Search of the Perfect 1/4 inch Seam. And I talked a lot about, and that's on my YouTube channel under the playlist Shields Live. And I did one called what do I call it? In Search of the Perfect 1/4 inch Seam. And I talked about the 1/4 inch piecing feet, the piecing stitch, and so on, just to give you several different ways of making 1/4 inch seams. So you might want to watch that if you struggle with it, because I just gave people a lot of different options. And it's on Sew Along with Jan under the playlist Shields Live. Okay, so I have playlists up there, and you can find things a little bit better. All right, so we're going to do this. Poor Gigi had to give up her right. Well, actually, she's still there, Cindy. She's still there, but I had to pull all of the fabric out from underneath of her because she wasn't going to move. She's funny. She's still there. See, she's still she's still right here. She hasn't moved. but I had to move. I know I had to move her fabric. Yeah, she likes to lay on. Oh, she just loves this little ironing mat over here. So, all right. So now we're going to stitch these on to 2 of the sides here, and I'm going to tie these on too. My crazy cat. Yeah, she usually only wants to be near me when I really need her to not be. That's just kind of a cat thing. So, but she doesn't like storms. So I think she was kind of afraid of the storm. And so she's been in here, since it's been banging and booming. And I also FED'd her, so I can't say it, because if I say it, then she'll expect it to happen again. So once I did that, then she was happier. And now she'll want TREATSs. So, and those haven't happened since I was getting ready for teaching and watching the storm. So, okay, so we got the first one done. So let's turn this around, do the second side. So is everybody enjoying the table toppers? These have been really fun for me. I just don't get to piece very often, and I really have been enjoying these. They turn out so cute. And I've enjoying the quilting and everything. So these have been really fun. I didn't realize how much fun I'd have making them. I did just get the August one done. I have to do September now, so I'm hoping this week to do September. And I am working on the Welcome Spring Bench Pillow videos, a video series. So just so you know, so I hope to finish that this week also. So we'll see how my week goes. All right, get this. All right. Yeah, I know these have just been, I've been really enjoying these. I think this has been my favorite one, but it is, yeah, I've always had, when I had 4 cats, and when I was sewing out here during the day, often all 4 of them would lay on the back of my sewing table here, and they'd be laying in the sun, because my sewing table was actually across the room from where I am now, and it was laying in the window. They were laying in the south window, and they'd all lay on the whole back of my, because I've got the back up on this sewing cabinet. And I have a couple pictures of all 4 of them just laid out on the sewing cabinet. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press these open. And actually what I'm going to do, not open, I'm going to press the seam in towards the border. Okay. We will get them, yes, the new books, but they're not available yet. I would guess, I think they're supposed to be available sometime in May. I haven't seen them come out yet. It's either May or June. I think it was May though. So yes, we'll have them on the website. They're just not available yet. All right. So there are our first two corners. So I'm going to trim these off. So yep, we'll have them. So is everybody still thinking they might like to do the new set next year? Would you like to do the new set starting next year and do the new ones? I think I'm going to do them differently though. I can't, God forbid that I could do them the way that the instructions say, you know, got to do them differently. All right. Yes. Yes. I know Mitzi wants to do them. Okay. So now we're going to do the other two. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to find my center on my table topper. Get everything lined up here. Yep. Cindy, you want to do them too? Yeah, I think I will. I'm going to do them a little differently though, because you know, I don't know that I'm going to quilt them as I go. I think I'm going to quilt. I think I'm going to do them and quilt them like we've been doing these, because I like my stuff to be quilted through the back. So I'm going to see if I can get it to work. It should. In my head, it's working, but I haven't tried one yet. So that's one of my summer projects, is to try that out. Okay, so now we're going to fold these in half. I got to retrieve another corner from under my cat. She's still over here laying on one of them. Okay, get this one. And okay, Gigi, sorry, I have to have this one. I know. She made her annoyed noise at me. Isn't it funny how animals have an annoyed noise usually? They're funny creatures. Okay, so now we're going to get these on these corners. Now this is the hardest part for me, is when I have to go do the squaring up on this, because you got to make sure that you don't lose your corners over here, you know, like on these corners right here. This topper is the June topper out of the original set, Lynn. So this is the one with the little watermelons. So this is the June one. So we're working a month ahead, and then we'll do the January one in December. Okay. So we started with February's in January. I love this one too. Actually, I really like the watermelons. And I have to say, I had a little bit of a problem with this one, because my hoop, I don't know, my hoop kind of slipped or something when I was working on one of my watermelons. And I had to do some ripping to get it. It's okay. It looks okay, but I did have to do some ripping on this one. All right. So now we're going to do these two. Got them all pinned on. And I'm going to tie these off too. Oh, your neighbor's out mowing in the rain. Well, you know, sometimes you get stuck in the rain, Donna. I've had that happen to me. I was out mowing, and you know, all of a sudden it just started to pour on me, and I didn't even look like it was going to. I did get my mowing done this week, and I was actually kind of proud of myself. I've been trying to come home on Saturday and do my mowing so that I can have all day Sunday and Monday without having to do yard work, because I really, really hate doing yard work. But I still need to buy mulch and do some mulching. So I'll try to get that done probably in the next week or so. I just really need to do it. I didn't do any mulching here last summer because I wasn't here. So it really needs to be done this year. It's been 2 years since I've mulched. So, okay, so I'm going to turn this around. We'll do this side. Still using my cord, and I am tying these corners off so that they stay on well when I get ready to put the borders on. I think I need to, there we go. Okay. And then we'll press these out. So now this one, I'll show you the little corners. So what you have to be careful of when you're squaring up this part of it is that mine always turn out just a little bit bigger than they're supposed to, because you got to make sure you don't cut off these corners. You know, if you try to make it the size they say, it just is a little bit too. Oh, how am I, Mitzi, you're talking to me? How are my neighbors doing? Well, let's see. Yesterday they started partying before I got home from work, and it lasted until about 11 o'clock last night outside. And then they were partying today, but it started to rain, so now they're inside. So it's not quite so noisy. I have very noisy neighbors. All right, so then I'm going to press these down, okay? And then what I'm talking about is when I go to square this up, and this one needs to be, let's see, I think it's the same. Yeah, it's 18 by 18. And mine always ends up being just a little bit bigger, because when you square this up, you do not want to go down closer than 1/4 of an inch from these tips here. Otherwise, you're going to cut off the tip when you go to put on your border. So mine usually turn out to be a little bit bigger. So what I do when I square these up is I lay them down on my cutting mat, okay? And I lay it along a line here to help me keep it straight. And then I lay my ruler on the tip, and I add 1/4 of an inch so that I don't go any less than that, okay? And that way everything turns out pretty good, but mine usually turn out to be about 18 1/4 inches instead of 18 inches, okay? So that's the easiest thing I can say is make sure you don't cut off your corners here, because you got to have 1/4 of an inch from the end of this to the edge of your fabric, okay? Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I can believe that, Cindy. Um, I was a band director, so playing drums was very loud. I also wore a lot of earplugs at that time. But, you know, the kids had to practice, right? So, all right, so I'm going to go press this, and I'm going to trim this off. So it'll take me just a minute, and I'll be right back, and we're going to put our borders on. Okay, so I'm laying this on a straight line on my mat. And that's how I do this. It seems to work the best for me. So I lay my edge along the straight and along the bottom so that I know it's straight. And then I can put my 1/4 inch mark right at the tip of my points here. And then I know I'm pretty straight. But they do turn out a little bigger. I'm trying to be very careful. It takes me a minute to do this. And I always do the top, and then I turn it and do the opposite side so I don't forget which side I cut off. Otherwise, I forget. All right, let's see here. This one is... now I'm going to do the sides. And it's going to square, it looks like it's squaring up pretty well, and it's going to be, you know, my normal about 1/4 of an inch off. So doing the last side. That spot that didn't cut here, there we go. But just be careful, don't cut off your little corners on the tip, the top and, or the little tips there. You don't want those gone. All right, so this looks pretty good. It's 18 1/4 by 18 1/4, so I usually am pretty consistently off. I'm going to give it one more little press on the corners here. Sometimes those corners are a little stiff. There we go. Okay. All right, so my corners are sometimes a little stiff. Oh my gosh. Fireworks, yeah, that's the other thing. I have neighbors up the street that do that at 4th of July. Oh my gosh, they start like the week before, and they have fireworks like every night for a week. So, all right, so we got our corners on, we got it squared up. Now we're ready for our borders. So the borders, remember we made a rectangle out of each of our 4 colors of the red, and I sewed them together. Okay, so some of them are just going to have 2 in, and then the other 2 I sewed the little corner blocks onto. Okay, so I kept the same ones in each border. So these are going to be my top and bottom, and these are going to be my sides. So the trick with these, though, we want to kind of alternate them so that they are, so I'm going to do the sides first. And I'm going to put, like on this side, I'm going to put this piece at the top, and on this side, I'm going to put this piece at the bottom so that they are, and I'd already sewed them together end to end, as you can see. Okay, so you just sewed them together in the center. But I'm going to make sure that I alternate them so that they're the opposites on each side. All right, so we'll put this one on. And then, of course, you know, our seam will be roughly in the center with any luck at all. Now, just to warn you, the next one of these we'll be doing is the July one that we'll do in June. And that one, I have to say, I did have a little trouble with it. It was a smaller, it had a different block on the inside, and the center is smaller than the rest of them are. So I did struggle a little bit because I actually had to make these pieces here 1/4 of an inch bigger because I could not cut it down to what they said I was supposed to, even though I checked my blocks as I went and everything was exactly the right size, but it was just too big. I mean, I could not trim it down to what they said the center was going to be because it's actually smaller. It was like 1.5 inches smaller than this one. So I actually had to make my border pieces longer. I just made them longer. Okay, so this one here, this is over here. I want it to, that one to be on this side. I want it to be on the opposite side. So I'm going to put that over here. So the July one was a little tricky, and I also struggled a little bit with the flags on it. So hopefully we'll get through it together. You guys will have to give me lots of moral support next month, okay? Because that one was a tough one. This one just took a while, but it wasn't hard. It just, I just struggled with the other one. Okay, so let's get our seams lined up here. So you've got people doing fireworks tonight, Donna? It's amazing how many people use fireworks. I was surprised. Here in Iowa, you know, they couldn't use much until recently, and they really use a lot of fireworks. Okay. So now we're going to do these borders first. We're going to drop our needle and tie it off. Yeah, the July one was just a little tricky for me. So I am going to cut. I think I need to recut my borders because I cut them the right size. And I think I'm going to have to recut them. Yeah, I did my flags, Jan. I did mine with rickrack instead of with the, like the picture shows it done with like ruching. And I did mine with rickrack actually. So mine are kind of cute. I mean, I like it. I found some like red glitter rickrack. It was kind of neat. All right. And we're going to tie off on this end. I like to tie off the borders. Yeah, I would wait to cut them because, like I said, I had to go up. I had to make them a quarter of an inch longer. I was able to get, so what happened with the first one is, you know, I cut them out what the size they said, and then they ended up being too short. So what I ended up doing is just taking an 1/8 inch seam, and I was able to do it. So if you cut your fabric piece, border pieces just a quarter of an inch longer, I think you'll have a little wiggle room. And it was really, they were really, I mean, I could not possibly square up the center panel to the size they said, because I would have cut off all the corners on my, you know, these corners that we were talking about right here. So yeah, so I did like, so I did my flags with rickrack on my July one, but it is the border, or the whole table topper is smaller. I mean, it's just physically smaller anyway. So all right, so we're gonna pull this one out and get it out of our way. Get into the end of this side, and then we will tie off, and then we're going to put our last borders on. So remember, we always have to put our squares on, you know, the corners on the last two borders. And then we're going to do the same thing with those. So we're going to make them opposite. So we're going to, you know, this one, we're going to make them opposite of each other. Oh, hi, Brenda. All right. Thank you. All right. So here is these. So I'm going to go and press these out, and then we make sure I got, ooh, I didn't even cut my corners off. Aren't you proud of me, guys? All right. Just a second here. Get this one pressed. Oops, I forgot a pin. All right. I'll have to get this quilted sometime this weekend too, or this week too, won't I? I got lots of things to do this week. There's always something to do. Have you ever noticed that? All right. So then we're going to go ahead and I sew these two together. All right. And then I put my little green cornerstones. And what I did with those, though, see, I pressed these seams outward towards the border, and then when I pressed these borders, I pressed the little blocks inward towards the border so that then they would nest on the corners. Okay, so I've got those nested, and then I'm going to pin those on. So we'll do these. So yeah, these were really fun. I've been enjoying these a lot. I don't get to piece much. I just like to piece, and you know, it doesn't seem like I have a reason to that much. So it's fun to have to piece every, you know, every month. I have to quilt, so it's kind of fun. All right, so then let's see if we can get our center seams matched up here. Fairly close. So I hope nobody else had really bad storms. They kind of rolled through here, so I imagine some of you that are in the Illinois area would be they'd be heading your direction. So, all right, let's turn this one. And where's my other border? Here we go. All right, so we got to make sure we get this opposite. So here's my polka dots over here. So we want the polka dots on this side over here. So just make sure we got them turned the right way. And there's quite a little bit of embroidery on these because they also put the little ants on the borders. So I put a few of the little ants on the border too. They were fun to do. And I did them in black glitter vinyl instead of in, I don't know if you could see them. I'll pull the thing down here again. Okay. And I did them in black glitter vinyl. So I thought they turned out cute. All right, let's see if we can get this one kind of matched up here. But these are fun. This one had lots of reds, though. I actually, believe it or not, I had all of these reds in my stash. I know, aren't the ants cute? So here's my ants. So there's ants all the way around the border. I can't say that I like the ants in my kitchen. I'm having a terrible time with ants in my kitchen right now. And all I do is squirt ants. I don't like ants. The cat doesn't like them either. It's funny because they like her bowl. So I have to pick her food up all the time and keep her bowl really clean. Otherwise the ants get into her food. And one morning I didn't notice the ants because her bowl is like really, really dark blue. And they basically jumped out of the bowl at her, and you should have seen her run the other direction. She didn't like the bugs. All right. So we're doing our last borders. Salt kills ants. Oh, cool. The other thing that they said online that was a natural thing, I haven't tried the salt. That's a good idea. They told me was white vinegar and water mixture that you can squirt with them. And I've gotten rid of a lot of them. So it is definitely better. All right, make sure I get them lined up here. There we go. And then we'll quilt this. So don't forget that the quilting video is on YouTube or on Facebook, so you can go back and watch it's easier to find it on YouTube if you just go to Sew Along with Jan and then the playlist Kimberbell Cuties. It's a lot easier to find the video if you need to watch the video while you're quilting. You can quilt it any way you want. I did them with the clear blue tiles. But if you want to just quilt it with your, stitch in the ditch, if you want to quilt straight line quilting, whatever you want to do. You can do anything kind of quilting. You can put it on your long arm. I have some people doing them on their long arms. So whatever works for you. Looks like I got a little off on this seam. I'm going to fix it. I heard my pin catch, and it just got this little center seam a little bit off. There we go. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to turn it around and do the other side. And we're almost done. Oops, here. Salt kills ants. That's good to know. I like to put things natural out. I don't like bug stuff because of the cat. And I don't like chemicals very well, so I don't like to put things out that she could get into. So I try to find natural, things that take care of things. And boy, it must be, I know other people that are having trouble with ants. It must be the year. There must be something going on that's causing it, because everybody seems to be having trouble with ants right now. I don't know why. Must be something to do with the dryness or the temperature or the cold, or who knows. They must be prone to have ants then. All right, we're just about there. sure I get this straight here. Get my corners straight. And I am tying off on the corners here. These are not the big ants. These are those, Donna, these are those teeny tiny little black ants, those little itty bitty ones. I do not like ants. I've always had problems with ants here, and I don't know why. We do have kind of sandy soil here, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but okay, so I'm going to go press these out. And it looks like, oh my gosh, I think I got all 4 of them on without cutting the corners off. Look at there. All right, let me go press this one out. And I got to go get the prize. I think that looks pretty good. It is amazing when you put the watermelons on, though. This one is just so kind of plain, and then all of a sudden you put those watermelons on, and it's so cute. So what do you think? There we go. It's all pieced. And like I said, I managed to not cut off any of my points, which I'm so excited about. That's always, I have to watch very carefully when I do my corners, because otherwise I'm always cutting them off. All right. So there is our top. I'm going to sandwich this, and I'm going to quilt it with this was the swirl pattern out of the clear blue tile file. So I did it in white, and this is just the plain swirl one. And I'll have it already quilted so that we're ready to do our embroidery next week. And then I'll also show you how to do the ruching. So if you wanted to do it so that there's no raw edges, wait till next week and I'll show you again how these work, okay? So we're going to do ruching, and I do it on the sewing machine instead of by hand. So, and I hot glue them on. So, all right, so let me go grab the prize. I almost forgot again this week. I was looking through some more stuff. Okay, just a second here, and I'm going to put the camera back up so we can have our prize. And again, remember, if you are from away from here, make sure you personal message me your mailing address if you win the prize, and then I will mail it to you. Okay? All right. So remember a couple weeks ago, we made that fun toolbox. Well, I had a couple of extra toolboxes without names on them. So here is a toolbox for your scan and cut. Okay, so these are scan and cut. I know a lot of you have scan and cut, so I had a couple of extra toolboxes. Everybody always seems to enjoy the toolboxes. So this is the prize this week. We're going to have a toolbox. Okay, and it says scan and cut on one side, and it says tools on the other, and then you can put your name. In the class, we put the name on the top. Okay, so this one doesn't have a name on it. I found 2 of them. I don't know why. For some reason, I had made them and never put names on them. So they were in my box. I'm like, okay, we'll have a toolbox. So the toolbox will be the prize. Okay, and these are I had red. That's the colors I happen to have. So hopefully you like red. So we have to get all the comments here, and we're going to see who's going to win our prize this week. So I'm going to mix up the names, all the comments here, and see if I can find a name. And remember, if you're away from here, just remember to personal message me your mailing address so that I can mail it to you. Okay, so I'm not looking. I'm just going to put my finger down on somebody's name. And it is Joyce Ingrams. Joyce Ingrams. Okay, so Joyce, I don't know where you're from. So can you email me your mailing address, please? And I'll mail you your scan and cut toolbox. Okay, Joyce Ingrams. So I will put Ingram, just one. There's no S on the end. It's just Joyce Ingram. Sorry. I was having trouble reading. I was reading a little too close here. You have to hold it back. Too many. So send me your name, your address and everything, and I'll mail it to you. And then next week we'll finish up. Yeah, I think there is a way to do it. There's something that you can do through Facebook, I think. And so I've always just done it this way, that, you know, I just kind of pick it that way. But there is a little device that you can pick names that way. So I haven't, I need to look into it more, but this has been working. And isn't it amazing? We've had a different person every week. Isn't that pretty cool? So anyway, Joyce, please send me your name and your address by personal message, and I will send you your prize. So, okay. So next week we're going to do the embroidery, the watermelons, and we're going to do the little ants, and I'm going to show you how to do the ruching and finish up our table topper. So this one's really fun. And so I'm anxious to get it finished up. I know Judy was anxious for this one to put on her table. So she likes to put these out like on her counter. So, all right. So next time we will finish this up. And then the third week in May, we will be doing the little, this is going to be the software class. But if you don't have software, it's okay. I put this up on the Dropbox in the software Dropbox. Okay. And this design is there so you can just sew it out if you want to, if you don't have the software. But we're going to learn how to make this little pin cushion. And I put walnut shells on it. So we're going to make that on the 21st. And then the weekend of Memorial Day, we're going to have a week off so everybody can have a Memorial Day weekend. Okay. So we'll have 2 more classes in May, and then we'll take a week off until June. So, okay. So next week, see you at 6:00 next Sunday, and we'll finish up our table topper. And in the meantime, I got to, my email address, Joyce, can you message me through Facebook? Just to Janice Schwartz. Otherwise, I can find you on Facebook and send you my email if that's the way you prefer. My email address is janshieldsSewing@gmail.com. Otherwise, you can send it through personal messenger through Facebook. Just find me. You'll find me on the group. Just find my name and click on it and say message, and you can do it that way. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.